Welcome back. A lot of people, they go buy insurance, especially for the first time. And if it's new to them and it's their new policy on their car or house, sometimes they think, well, geez, I'm fully covered. Anything that happens will be covered by insurance. But that isn't true. Charles Tobin joins us, who recently won the President's Club Award with AAA Insurance, the same company you trust to come get you when your car breaks down. Also, you can trust with insurance. And Charles, first, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. So, Charles, talk a little bit about, this people thinking they're fully covered, and maybe the fact that they're not.
Well, the key to remember is that you're only covered up to your liability limits, or your policy limits, rather. In this case, liability is a big one. I guess if you have that big house and you have that nice heat duct system.
Anti-duct system.
Anti-duct, sorry.
With an inverter, with a, what is it? An inverter compressor.
Yeah, and you have, the cars and the family and all that stuff. You stand something to lose. And so it's always important to have excess liability coverage, which in this case is an umbrella policy. So you're not fully covered under your, well, actually, let me back up. So you're only covered all the way up until your liability limits. That's what I'm saying. But the umbrella will protect you beyond that.
And so when people think they're fully covered, and you hear, we hear it all the time, fully covered. Oh, we want full coverage on our house. Yeah. I mean, full coverage doesn't really mean anything if somebody falls off your roof and dies, because you probably don't have, if it was your fault, you probably don't have enough money in your liability to actually cover the fact that this guy just fell off his roof and broke your neck because you put him up there. I don't know.
You're entertaining. Yeah, and he found it fun to go up on the roof.
That's right. He's like, I'm going to go look on the roof and look at his view. And then next thing you know, he falls off, and your liability coverage does not cover people falling off a roof. Well, it may, but not all the way up to.
Yeah. He could sue you. The roof was slippery or something. He'd have to prove that, you were liable. And then your home insurance liability would then kick in, pay to defend you and whatnot. But it only is going to pay as much as you have, and then you're on the hook for the rest. So let's say you only had $300,000, but he sued you for $1.5 million.
So do people, you think about this homeowner liability, right? And I know we're going to get into umbrella insurance in a second, but yeah. I don't think people consider a lot that they're going to be liable for in their own house. You're not like, I think somebody is going to figure out a $300,000 reason to sue me because I had them over for dinner and the chicken was raw.
Yeah, true. That's...
Of course, that'd be a good reason.
Yeah, it's not...
But you've had dinner at my house. I don't serve raw chicken.
No, you cook very good chicken. I actually stole your recipe.
Okay, so that liability. Talk more about that. And
well, yeah, I guess the average person, you have a car and a house, so you're not really sitting there thinking, "Wow, do I really need more liability insurance? Why would I need that?" But stop and think about. I don't know if you guys heard on the news yesterday that 6-car pileup on I-5. Pretty bad. Luckily, no one was really hurt. But what if you were the one driving that day and you caused that accident and people were hurt? That's an instance of where your liability limits on your auto, in this example, will only pay up to, say, maybe $500,000. But the umbrella could kick in and pay for the rest, and that's a case where you might need something. But, of course, you can't predict that's going to happen to you, but it would give you peace of mind.
Who needs this type of insurance where they are, where they have this additional rather than just their car insurance?
I would say anyone that owns a home or has some investments where you stand to lose something. Like I touched on earlier, you have a house, maybe you have 2 houses, maybe you have a boat, maybe you have a motorcycle. You have those additional exposures, and you could potentially lose it all if you were sued.
And so how do you find if you own, it sounds to me like it's if you own something.
Yeah.
Right? And you pretty much are going to have insurance if you own something. Mm-hmm. And so how do people decide how much they need?
Well, I ask people to look at their lifestyle, or while I'm talking to them and getting to know them, I'll ask them, hey, what do you do for fun? Or, do you entertain? Like you talked about earlier. Do you have 20 guests over, for 4th of July? Do you go up to the mountain and go skiing and take a whole bunch of people with you? Just certain lifestyle, like things like that could open yourself up to that exposure.
People don't consider the risk in their lifestyle.
Yeah. You think it's just, I'll be safe. I'll be fine. and you don't think about what could happen.
And
So that, yeah, no, go ahead.
So, I mean, when people are going through they're going through life, things can happen. There's undoubtedly that things can happen, bad things can happen. How do people decide, I mean, how much they actually need then? I mean, are they covering basically their assets?
Yeah, that's one thing to look at. You know, if you have a lot of investments, and again, if you entertain a lot and just look at your lifestyle, the average that people usually get in excess liability is 1 million. And you can do it in increments of 1 million all the way up to, some companies offer 10. Now that's if you really have a lot to lose.
if they're really big parties.
Yeah. You have several houses.
So, yeah. So is this something that you see just general people, are people lacking this? Is it something that like somebody in insurance sells because it's a sellable feature, or is it something that people should truly consider having?
I would say more people need it than actually have it. Just because in our litigious society, you never know what could happen. And it's really affordable. I'm not going to tell you the rate. I'm not going to fall for that one. But it is affordable. And it really gives you peace of mind and yeah.
So when people go through this insurance process trying to find the right insurance, sometimes you need more than maybe just your car. And this covers bad things with cars, bad things in your house, bad chicken, people falling off your roof, whatever it is, this covers it.
Yeah. I guess I'll explain a little bit what it really is. It's an excess liability that will cover, any type of policy that you have that has liability. So motorcycle, RV, house, auto, and you have to maximize your limits on those underlying policies. Like your car, you have to have the highest limits, and then you can have an umbrella that basically protects all of those, and that's why they call it an umbrella, because it extends to each one of those. So
it certainly does. I guess it covers you like an umbrella, everything you got.
Yeah, that's why they call it, and it's really, it's called a personal excess liability policy, but we all call it an umbrella in the insurance world.
Well, Charles, we just have about a minute left. Again, we're here with Charles Tobin with AAA Insurance. And in the insurance world, when people are considering an umbrella policy or considering any insurance, we do a lot with making sure people find the right professionals. When they're finding a new insurance policy, one of the things you've talked about before is making sure people are actually asking them the questions before they start selling them policies. Yeah. And isn't that kind of true of this, where you have to kind of gauge what somebody has, lifestyle, assets, things of that nature, before you say, hey, here's an umbrella.
Yeah. It's someone who just graduates college who just wants an auto and a renter's policy. I'm not going to say, hey, you should think about this. But, someone who's in their 30s and they're working towards that career and family and they have all these assets they're building up, then I usually recommend that. And asking the questions, you find that stuff out.
Well, I think it's key that no matter what new venture people take on and they're trying to find the right people to work with, those questions are key. And they're just a huge aspect. And knowing that you can find a professional where people do ask you questions and then truly honor you by listening. I can't tell you how many times people ask questions and then don't listen to the answer. And, I'm guilty of it. I think a lot of people are guilty of it. But there's an element of when you're in a situation, and this is actually something that I just have found to be more and more true. You're in a situation. You're talking to a potential person you want to work with. They should honor you by listening to what's truly important. And there has been studies that show if you are really listening to somebody at the end of an hour, you should be exhausted. It's not passive. And true professionals, I think, should have the ability to honor those people around them in which they wish to do business, because that is what can create a trusty relationship. That way, you're not buying an umbrella policy if you don't need one, right? That way, if you don't drink wine, you don't need to buy a wine room with or care what the temperature is. But it really is. You got to be able to figure out what people want and need before you can sell them anything. And I think throughout life and throughout all the ventures that so many people go through, there's a massive lack of listening and the ability to understand what people want, what people need out of a situation before you go at their juggler with different types of insurance policies or mortgages or real estate or even heating pumps.